you know, a lot of people, because Leonard is, his reputation is as a very dark artist, and you know, there's a little hanged man there, and he's known as an artist who really explains the underside of, you know, our lives. Um, but he had a wonderful sense of humor. He loved kids, and some of the work really was not that dissimilar to what's in the children's books. And I find our book, Animals That Ought to Be, which has a couple of bird drawings in it, again because adults are so used to Baskin as being a dark artist. They'll look at some of the pieces in the kids' book, and their preconceptions, they'll look at these birds and say, oh, this is, you know, this is a bird that represents death, or it's dark, or it's very difficult. The same thing with the, did you say ghosts? They'll look at some of the monsters in that book, and you know, with their adult perceptions say, oh, this is way too much for kids. But children who have never heard of Leonard Baskin will look at some of these same drawings and laugh uproariously, which was what Leonard wanted. A lot of the drawings are just darn funny. And so it's always interesting to me to see the different perceptions with that. And behind me, Leonard's greatest piece, his portrait of me in bronze. So,
is poet art dealer the appropriate description?
Poet art dealer. I was very pleased that and it says underneath in Latin, and friend of mine.
Oh, that's nice.
And of course, my relationship with Leonard started out as his art dealer, but eventually transcended that, and as we became collaborators. And one of the things that was important to me is that he always did really, the art was paramount to him. We had a business relationship, but he always would introduce me, and you know, he was one of the great artists of our century, and he always introduced me first as a poet. And it would only be maybe in a later conversation that our relationship as a dealer would come out. But that was just less important to him. What was important to him was that I was an artist and a poet, and we worked together in that way. So it was always both humbling and exciting to be to work with as an equal with one of the great artists of our time, and I still, when I'm working, he's still looking over my shoulder, because when Leonard was alive, before I presented anything to show him, I always had to work on it and work on it, because I knew the great Leonard Baskin would be looking at it, and I wanted him to see the best I could do, because he was an unsparing critic, and you know, you didn't want to try to pass off something below par. And so just having that voice in your head made me work that much harder and try so much harder, because I wanted to be up to Leonard's standards. And I still try to keep that voice in my head, I think.